Hi, welcome to Zoom Around Town with Jaimi Jansen, and we have our guest today is Jordan Lehman from, where are you from, Jordan?
I'm from Idea Fab Labs. Thanks, Jaimi.
Awesome. Well, welcome today. We're really excited to have you. Can you share a little bit about your business and how long you've been in business and where you're located?
Yeah, sure. So we have two locations, actually. We started in Chico, California, where I'm from. And then my business partner, Aaron Banwell, is from Santa Cruz, Felton. And so we've been in business since 2013. We started the Fab Lab in Chico there first. And then going on 5 years now, 5 years ago, we started the Santa Cruz Fab Lab here in the Wrigley building on the west side.
Awesome. The Wrigley building's a great big building. If you don't know where it is, there's a really awesome bike shop or bike store. The Santa Cruz Bicycles is there too, near there. And then they have a farmer's market on the west side on Saturday. So I've definitely ridden by there and been in that building plenty. So what do you do at Fab Labs?
Yeah, mostly everything. We're a pretty small company. We're basically volunteer run. We exchange volunteer time for membership access. So
Nice.
the business itself is membership access to digital fabrication tools and software and workspace. So people pay a monthly fee like a gym, and they get access to things like laser cutters, 3D printers, CNC machines, wood shop, etc.
So like really great for industrial designers or maybe even graphic designers and people who are wanting to maybe build a product, something like that?
Absolutely.
Oh, cool.
And more. There's a lot of artists. Plenty of people in the area who are hobbyists. Here in Santa Cruz, we have a little bit more of that like tech population, especially some of the like original tech people.
Mm-hmm.
We have some of those like, original Apple employees and things like that who are like just mostly cool people who they feel like this kind of a thing is their community. So they support it and participate as hobbyists more than anything else.
Nice. That's awesome. So are you still open, and how has COVID and the shelter in place really affected your business?
Well, it's severely affected a lot of people's businesses, obviously, including ours. With shelter in place and access to things like a wood shop being pretty much not essential for most people, it's hard to justify coming into the shop for essential activities. So we're pretty much shut down when it comes to membership, which is the end.
Right.
What's happened instead is because we're a small company, because we're nimble, because everything that we do is super dynamic. Like, what do we actually do? Like, let me start with this. People pay memberships to come to our shop, but we also do contract work. We also do classes and workshops. We do a ton of different things. And so right now we're just more focused on doing production we're making masks and we're making PPE. That's probably why we're on the phone right now. But our main business is completely offline, and our secondary operations are becoming our primary operations right now.
So how is it that you were able to get involved with making masks and PPE equipment? What exactly are you making? Are you making like the masks that just go on your face, or the face shields? And what kind of PPE equipment are you making?
Well, let me start at the top and kind of like explain how we got started. Aaron Banwell, who I mentioned, my business partner, his father, Tom Banwell, is a very renowned mask maker.
Oh, wow.
So it just so happens that our business actually sort of spawned from the threads of his father's business. So when I met Aaron, he owned a laser cutter, and the reason he owned the laser cutter was that he had figured out that his dad's business could be sped up by using the machine to do a lot of the manual labor of making these masks. Yeah. So leather is the laser cutter and leather are an amazing combination. You can do things like cut really elaborate shapes out. You can do all of like if you were going to hand stitch leather together, you could have the laser cutter make all of the holes. So you wouldn't have to start all of the holes for the stitching.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like, it's just, the laser cutters are amazing in general. And that's just one way that they kind of accelerate something like that. So we came out of this mask production business that Aaron's dad was doing, and he sort of, added digital fabrication to the process. So then he was exposed to this tool, which is so amazing, and was doing artwork with it. When I first met Aaron, he was like, yeah, we're having this event in San Francisco. You should come. It's Chinese New Year. And he had made this elaborate Chinese dragon out of laser cut pieces. And it was, you know, I'd never seen anything like it. Completely blew my mind.
Wow.
So that's sort of how we got started, was this like laser cutter from this mask business that led to us having a, you know, all these discussions about making art and doing big sculptures. And that's what kind of led to, how do we get a community built around doing big art projects? That's how we got to this makerspace idea. But now, fast forward and skip a big chunk of the story, you know, enter this PPE shortage. And Aaron was probably the first person of anyone I know and anyone I've talked to and met since this has all gone down, who said, everyone should be wearing masks and we can make them right now. Because obviously he had the mask thing in his head already.
Right.
That was their history. So we kind of had a leg up on that because of his mask background.
That's awesome.
So that's how we got here, right? So then what we're making now, the Chico facility is selling masks. They're selling masks to the public. They're selling masks to a bunch of organizations, a bunch of, like, they have, let's see, like courthouses and dentists and everybody in the North State is coming to Idea Fab Labs to get their masks. And they have a small army of seam workers who are stitching the masks together. They all get cut on our laser cutter. It's a big operation. And so they're cloth masks. They're definitely not N95 masks, but there aren't really any N95 masks if you want some. So this is sort of a stopgap measure. And then we were doing that before the CDC said that you should wear a mask in public. So by the time that happened, both facilities were already producing, you know, 1,000 to 2,000 masks a week, because we knew that was going to happen.
So are you able to make using the 3D printer, are you able to make any of those face shields?
Absolutely. Well, so then, yeah, so there's masks, and that's all there. And then my aunt is the head of palliative care at Enloe Hospital up in Chico.
Nice.
And she messaged me also pretty early on and said, hey, we're going to run out of protective equipment. Don't you guys 3D print stuff or whatever? And Aaron, because I'm here in Santa Cruz, and immediately he got sped up the chain to the buyers there and the infectious disease people. And they said, you know, we need so many of these. And they have, you know, they know what they want, and they gave Aaron the models of what they want. The problem with 3D printing is it takes comparatively forever. It is not a fast process. It is so slow that really the answer to meeting the production needs of everybody has been to completely remove technology from the process.
So what takes so long? Is it the 3D printer that takes so long to print?
Yeah, absolutely. The 3D printer to print one of these, like the common headbands that are circulating, it takes around between 1 and 2 hours.
Wow.
Some of the models are longer than that, and you could see an arc of time as people improve and modify the designs and figure out how to make it a smoother, simpler, easier process. But what we discovered was that we aren't going to very much meet the demand doing that, even if there's a bunch of people in the community printing. It feels good, and it actually does matter. We had a lot of conversations about it. Like, if you have a 3D printer and you can 3D print something, because the shortage is so immense, it does matter.
Yeah. So how many are you able to produce in a day? And where are you sending them?
Of the 3D printed shields, our facility, we have a lot of 3D printers, but only about 3 of them seem to be adequate to produce what we're doing. So we were having more trouble and challenges with some of the printers that we had that was taking more time to fix and repair and manage them than it was to just take and spend that time on something else and only run the 3 machines that are having no problems, and we keep them running all day. And at that pace, we remixed one of the common designs and got it from 1 hour and 20 minutes down, or sorry, 2 hours and 20 minutes down to 1 hour.
Wow.
So then now we're producing, I haven't been keeping too hard of a track on this because, again, the 3D printing part of it, we're only doing the 3D printing part because we can, because we have 3D printers. I'll talk a little bit more about the face shield production stuff that way outpaces the 3D printers, but we're printing 2, 4, 6. We're doing between 18 and 24 a day.
Oh, wow, that's good.
It's pretty good. And again, it was half that when we had the files were
bigger,
took longer. Yeah. And people are doing it. And I, again, at first I said, 3D printing, man, that's like, people are printing 3 or 4 a day on their printers, which under normal circumstances, you would just kind of laugh at that and say, well, you should use that for your family and your friends, which your family and your friends don't need face shields unless they're working with patients, or people who probably have tested positive.
Right.
So that doesn't really matter. But, there's what we discovered through this process. I guess we should probably talk about what's happening here in Santa Cruz and in Monterey County with PPE to kind of illuminate some of what's like, why we're making certain decisions and where things are going.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I also, my brother, he lives in Texas, and he actually is making the face shields because he has 2 3D printers as well. And where did you get the file, and how were you able to get it down to an hour? Did you redesign it completely, or what did you do?
Okay, so the most common, there's 2 really common designs that have been floating around. I think one is the Verkistan, I think, and I may be butchering that. It's a very thin band. It takes definitely less. It takes an hour or less.
Right.
And it kind of loops in the back, and you put the lens on it, and you have like a rubber band, and it kind of cinch it, or can compress a little bit. We did have a little exchange with several physicians where we brought several different designs. Some were 3D printed, some were no 3D printing involved, and asked them to try them on and give us, hey, which do you want? One of the biggest problems that we discovered through all of our discussions and all of our trying to figure out how to solve problems was that people are just making stuff.
Right.
And they don't really, none of the physicians are involved. And that is not true in every case, but people are just doing whatever they can, which is great. But we were asking questions like, what do you want as a nurse, as a doctor, as a, if you are intubating someone, which is one of the most dangerous experiences people are having. So what they said was they don't like the 3D printed bands. They hurt. I have to wear this for 12 hours. I'm going to have a headache in 20 minutes. Maybe it'll go away after a while. So we've been trying to balance need with desire, need with comfort. There's all these factors at play that really affect. Do you want no face shield, a comfortable face shield, or something in between? Again, it's, we're constantly weighing these things. We're constantly having things change. So what happened was we have that one. So I'm getting off, but there's that one Verkistan one, which is thin, and maybe we can add a photo in when we're talking. And then there's one that's the Prusa model, and Prusa is, I don't actually know I've never heard of Verkistan before. I think they might be a 3D printing or modeling company. And then Prusa, Joseph Prusa, it's a Czech 3D printing company, and we buy their 3D printers. We really like their 3D printers.
Nice.
Like I said, they're the ones that are just working instead of failing all the time. Which, if you know anything about 3D printing, is usually the norm is that the 3D printers are not really working that well. That's normal.
I've definitely heard that.
That's standard. But the Prusa machines have been really great. I mean, I literally walk up, I pull the print off, I push start, and I'm pretty comfortable walking away, which most of the time you wouldn't be comfortable just walking away from the 3D printer until it's actually gotten started and you know that it's going to be like the print has a good solid base. So that has been really great. The Prusa machines are amazing, and that company released their headband design, and it's gone through a couple iterations where they were improving it. And all we did was say, this band is really tall and I don't think it needs to be as tall as it is. So we cut the height down, moved some things around, and got it down to about half the time.
Nice. That's awesome. So yeah, let's go ahead and move in and segue. That's a good segue into who's wearing them. You said that it was people who are with patients. I know that my clinic, I run Santa Cruz Core Fitness and Rehab, and we do chiropractic and acupuncture, and we've got masks, but we definitely are reusing them because we don't have enough, and we don't have any face shields. So someone like us would love to have some. So who are you giving them to? What's the response? I know that with PPE equipment, the protective gear, you can't wear it all the time. I mean, I know the face shields, you might be able to wipe them down, but you have, like, one of the reasons why there's such a need for all these N95 masks and masks in general is because of sanitation, you have to be able to replace them pretty frequently. And I know that I have a couple of friends who are physicians, and I work with a physician who works also in the ER, Dominican, and they're having to change their sanitation standards based on what's going on because they just don't have the volume of masks. Usually it's every patient, you take it off, you throw it away, you put a new one on before you go into the room. But I don't think they're doing that now. Can you speak to any of this?
That's what I hear. So what happened was Aaron said, hey, we're making these masks. People are asking me for them. Mm-hmm. My aunt was saying, hey, we need those. We're going to run out of N95s. We'll wear a cloth mask instead of nothing. So people are saying this to us and we're like, oh, okay, well, that's wild. And then I got introduced to a woman named Dr. Catherine Sundquist Forrest. She's local to Santa Cruz and is affiliated with a couple of our members. So I got introduced to her over Zoom, and immediately she said, look, I've got 20 years of medical director experience. This is going to be a nightmare and we need to do something about it. And I hear that you can produce things. So I would like to work with you to produce things like cloth masks in the absence of N95s.
Right.
No one is saying a cloth mask is what you should be wearing, but everyone is saying, I don't have anything, or I've been wearing the same N95 mask for a week. We need something. We need to be able to wash something. We need to be able to reuse it. We need something to, can we put a filter inside of it? So there's all these requirements, all these things that people are asking for. And what we really thought what was going to happen was that we would be serving this intermediate population. We kind of see it in three sections of at-risk population. There's the people who are directly interfacing with patients, mm-hmm. And they should have an N95 mask and a face shield, and they should be, following all the protocols and have the highest level of risk prevention. And then there's the second population, which would really like to have that and isn't getting it at all, which is people like home health workers or community service people who are interfacing with people who may just as well as anyone else be infected, but you don't know.
Right.
And that's even like city workers, like police, fire, like all these people who are interfacing with people and possibly people who are infected. And so mm-hmm. there's that population. And then there's a third population, which is everyone else who's an essential worker who is also potentially interfacing with people who are contagious. So grocery store clerks, everyone who's in that sort of general essential worker category. So we thought what we were going to be doing was helping to cover the bases of that second, and then hopefully also that third group. But what has happened instead is that nurses and doctors are knocking at our door saying, I have nothing. What do you have for me? And in Santa Cruz and in Monterey, it hasn't been nearly as bad as places like New York, Chicago, St. Louis, etc. But people are still concerned, and they're still coming to us because there's such a shortage, and no one is able to get any product from any large body up until this point. Still, hey, we have 20,000 masks coming to us, but now we're out of contact and no one tells us when, and we don't know if they're ever going to come.
Yeah, it's been a real challenge. I know, like, for us, we've asked multiple places. We're such a peanut, like, we haven't gotten any yet. And I can see that in, like, our hospital, the same thing. Like, they're having a hard time as well. So we really appreciate your company and all that you're doing. How are you being funded? Is there a way that we can support you, or are people paying for this, or how are you able to keep your doors open and do this amazing work? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so there's definitely a few different threads.
Good.
Right now, Aaron up in Chico, everything is paid for by the consumer. So the hospitals are paying, everybody's paying for the product. He's in most cases undercutting anyone under normal circumstances. He's undercutting those people anyway. So there's, it's not at a premium. We're producing as much as we can, as fast as we can for a totally legitimate, awesome price. Here, it's been a little different in the sense that I partnered up with Dr. Forrest, and she's involved with Encompass. She's on one of their boards. And then we also partnered up with the Monterey and Santa Cruz medical societies. And so I'm a little bit more in touch with these nonprofit organizations who have raised some money in order to have the costs to be covered to manufacture. And then we have PPE for Central Coast is the website that we put together to take in requests. And then, basically we're going to try and produce all this PPE and get it out to all the people who have requested that they need it. It's been challenging. It's, everything changes every day. Some people request a bunch of stuff that they say they need, then we call them and then they say, well, really, we don't need that much. We just thought we should tell you how much we would want if we, there's all these different aspects. So we're just trying to make sure that we do a good job and get as many people covered as we can. Encompass was the first organization, like directly with Dr. Forrest. So, hundreds of masks have gone to them. And we're now into the rhythm where every week we get hundreds of masks back from the scene workers. So we're just now starting to finally be able to get big swaths covered through that. So some of the money is through these nonprofit organizations and donations. Others, if people can pay. In a lot of cases, money isn't the problem; it's supply.
Right.
So, our business is basically dead if we don't do anything. If we don't do something else. So, as long as I can get my costs covered and pay for the rent, then I'm happy to help, and that seems to be working out. There's other groups that have come in and spent a ton of money to donate and facilitate. And so we're also trying to make sure that if there's people who are really in need and they can't afford to have what they need, then they get it anyway. So it's all risk stratifying. Who are the highest risk people and what do they need and how do we get it to them now? And then who is the next level of, it would be really nice if I had this, but I can make do with what I do have, and then getting those people covered next.
Awesome. So how can somebody
have nothing?
Yeah. And so how can we get in touch with you if we need something? I know that, I know some businesses, mine included, we don't have face shields. So what would we do to try and reach out? I know we've got the cloth masks that we're using and we're washing, which is great. A couple of us have some N95 masks that I've heard that you can put in the oven at like 100 degrees or something and it'll sanitize them.
It's 165 degrees for 30 minutes.
Okay. 165 for 30 minutes. Glad that we checked.
Yeah. It's between 160 and 170, which I just would call 165.
Right.
And at least 30 minutes. 100 degrees will not do that.
All right, I'm going to make a post on social because that's really good information. So do we just call Fab Labs, or how do we get in touch with you, Jordan?
No, please don't call the Fab Lab. Use the website PPE.
Okay, I'm going to write this down. Hold on. What is it? It's
PPE for the numeral 4 CC, which means Central Coast .org. PPE4cc.org. And there's a button on there to request PPE. Please use that. That goes into our system, and then we can get back to you and double check that we have what you need, go through that process. And if it's right now at the point we're at, small amounts, totally reasonable. Large amounts, we need to figure it out. But we're just now getting to this rhythm where as long as there's a demand and the demand is clear, then we can meet it within a reasonable amount of time, which is, depending on what it is, usually between 5 and 10 days. Like if you need thousands, then it's like more on the 10-day side of thing. If you need 10 or 20, then that's pretty soon.
It's just so awesome that you guys have kind of gotten to this niche, and really it must feel so good to give back. I know that even though we're not seeing a huge, large part of the population, the fact that we're able to help people still stay healthy, it feels so good to be able to contribute right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty exhausted, so I'm thinking that those emotions surface every once in a while.
Right.
But for the most part, I've been overwhelmed. I do realize that it's absolutely a privilege to be able to use our facility, which we normally use to have fun and play and be creative, to meet this need. It doesn't make any sense. It's absolutely absurd, and there's some serious fundamental problems with why we're the people who are in this position.
Right.
And that's maybe another conversation for 6 weeks from now, but it is a privilege that we can help. And partially it's because we're nimble. Every other bureaucratic or large organization, has taken its time, taken until about now, maybe about this week. We're starting to see big companies tool up and say, hey, we can produce 5,000 shields. We can produce 20,000 shields, and we were really going at this 3 weeks ago.
Right. So it's interesting that they're just starting to do something about it when they're already talking about oh, maybe we're going to do a soft opening in California, or what is that looking like for the other states? So do you think, speaking of that, even if we do start to open up, will there still be a need for PPE equipment? I mean, I could imagine there would be, because now we're going to be interacting with each other and in closer interfaces, so that with that much more volume of people, to prevent a resurgence of COVID, we need to really shield up.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think every week I try to, it's more like twice a week, I try to assess that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I say to myself, okay, I'm exhausted and I would love to not be doing this. Because the hardest part is that it changes every day, 3 times a day it changes.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is what the numbers are of what we think we should produce for these different organizations or groups. Also, how much longer we're going to be in shelter in place, all these different factors. Also, materials, supply chain and materials is actually a thing that changes all the time. I think that's probably my biggest stress. Okay, where am I going to get elastic, or what are we going to use instead of elastic, or we have to change the instructions and everything in order to accommodate this new material, or, are we suddenly going into a place where we're actually going to lose a bunch of money trying to facilitate this, and then now we're just stabbing ourselves,
right?
Which I can't let happen. So all that stuff changes all the time, and the big question is, how much longer is this going to be a need? Because in some cases it's well, what if we went and bought 20,000 masks worth of material? Mm-hmm. But then we only end up producing 10,000 masks of material in the next few weeks, and then now we don't need that, and now we're bankrupt again because we went out and so trying to balance the need with the demand, this theoretical high but theoretical demand, is stressful and uncertain, but it continuously appears that this shortage will remain, and that people are not, especially that second and third group of people, aren't really going to get what they need no matter what, because hospitals and testing and all that stuff is going to still continue to eat up all of it. People are innovating though, so every day and every week it shifts just enough to keep me totally on my toes. It's cool because we can do something. It's promising because it looks like we'll be able to also keep our business alive through what is very clearly going to be a very deep economic downturn. But it's also extremely stressful.
Yeah, I definitely feel you. I mean, as a small business owner and someone who consults with other different types of businesses and in the healthcare industry and not in the healthcare industry, what I'm seeing is that things with funding in the state of California and also across the country, the federal funding is changing every day. What different governors are saying and senators are saying is changing every day. What the president's saying. So it's like by the minute, what I told people yesterday, it may not be valid today. You know, I'm speaking as an expert, and here I am like, whoops, they changed the rules. I think
Yep.
with their dissemination of cash and funding, they, you know, threw a bunch of money at things, and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, we can't just throw money at it. We got to like make some rules. And like, very much that affects the hospitals, and it affects you and how everything is kind of working. So I can completely relate. It's almost like you're got this like fight or flight system going all the time because you're not sure which way you're supposed to move, you know? And that's just stressful in and of itself, trying to be that first responder to be able to provide to the hospitals and stuff. I mean, it takes a lot of effort, and we just applaud the work that you're doing. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I think the more we can kind of stay together about it, be critical thinkers about who we trust with what the next decision is going to be, or what the right decision is for when things like, well, the big one is, oh, we need to reopen the economy, and that whole discussion.
Right.
I think I almost feel like I haven't been able to form an opinion or form, you know, I'm somewhere stuck between being a very informed participant in that conversation, and also feeling like I don't even have the bandwidth to see at that level of 30,000 feet from where we're at. It's very fight or flight, like you said.
Yeah.
So, but I do know that what we have to do is make sure that we are being critical thinkers and critical of our leadership. And it, you know, I don't even want to get into what's happening at the federal level again, because it's too much for me to really even process that, except for how it affects us individually in these counties.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the county and how things get run, you know, I don't really know anyone who did that good of a job of preparing for this, even though it's been a slow motion car crash and you definitely could have seen it coming. And if you were paying attention, then you would have known that in January. So again, I don't, you know, let's just try to support the people who we see are really putting the effort in, and protect the people who are right there, all of the healthcare workers and all of the people who are literally risking their lives in order to cushion the blow of this. I think it's important to support them and not act irrationally.
Yeah, I think that's super important, and definitely, you know, take a deep breath before you speak, and take a pause before you make a move, because a lot of times people are really upset and can get really upset, and are making these knee-jerk reactions to things, and it can actually cause more harm than good. So I really applaud your ability to kind of stay in the present moment and really make good, accurate, you know, stable decisions, because I know that for a lot of people, they're reacting, and I think we have to react for sure, but react thoughtfully. I think that makes all the difference for sure.
I think the hardest thing is the other side, is the not reacting or the not acting. I find that the biggest challenge for me has been everything just changed, and my immediate response is to hold, you know, instead of like pause and think. But pausing and thinking is also, it's like this, you're right in the middle between don't do something irrational or don't do something uninformed, and don't not do something when you should. And it's like there's a narrow,
and it's such
everything moves fast, you know. It's like,
yeah, it's so small.
We're gonna just stop, and then all of a sudden we missed our opportunity. I guess a lot of that for me is, again, materials. Like if I buy this $2,000 worth or 2,000 masks worth of materials, you know, if I don't buy it now, I might not be able to buy it at all. And so I need to buy that so that we can produce for our local community rather than someone else buying that. And it's like, those are stressful decisions. And it's kind of the right in between do something and don't do something, and do the right thing. And yeah, we're all being tested.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. So let's say that we get open, and we get open in May, or we get open in June, and then they don't know what the next fall, winter, summer is going to be like. So I don't anticipate you all of a sudden stopping making things. I mean, it may slow down, but I could absolutely see that there's a continuous need for equipment. because they don't know how this will come back, or if it will come back, or if there will be a vaccine. This is all such, like you said earlier, it's so up in the air. So having a good reserve could be very beneficial for you.
Yeah, and I think, again, the fortunate part of our situation is that we're very nimble, and so we can do something else. Like, say, I think part of prediction is, we hit this peak, it goes down, we release the restrictions on the community, and then it comes back. Mm-hmm. And you end up with this like pulse of viral, and it sucks to think about that, and it sucks to have that be the case. But let's just say that's what we do. If that's what happens, we end up with these bursts. And so we could potentially, during the not so busy time, like, okay, yes, we need to make masks, we do it. Okay, now we don't, no one needs them. Mm-hmm. Then we find what we do in the meantime. And so we can actually pretty rapidly switch our operations. I make art, LED art, and if people want to buy my art, then I'll make art for 3 or 4 weeks. Or maybe we need to, build some other thing. We can figure that out.
I really appreciate your flexibility and your ability to be creative, especially now. It's awesome. You sound like you're really resourceful, and you're definitely making a difference in our local community and our greater local Central Coast community. And so I know I speak for probably everybody that we are just so appreciative of the work that you're doing, and we just want to say thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I just realized what I'm going to do if there's a break.
What are you going to do?
Sleep.
There you go. That's a great thing to do.
I have been sleeping, and I recommend that people sleep.
Keeps your immune system up. For
immune system reasons, yeah. So that's good. But I also I don't know. I think we're all in the same boat, even though I'm not isolated. I see a few people every day who I'm working with at the shop, and we're very careful, but I get to see those people. I can talk to those people. I laugh with those people, and I'm grateful for that. But I still feel, like I miss burritos, and
yeah.
And I guess I have been really cautious about takeout food, and I don't think I'm uncertain. I think the risks are high there. So I've been careful, and if I get sick, then that will be really bad for our operation. So I've been trying not to get sick specifically. So I miss burritos, and I miss some of my like Santa Cruz things that I like to do. I don't personally surf, but I know some people are just wigged out completely. So I think we're all in the same boat too, of like, everything's changed so much that it creates this really just a baseline of stress of just how much your routine has been sidelined, so I hope everyone's, hanging in there. And I just don't really know when it comes to the timeline. I tend to be pretty optimistic about things, but that's more like, my optimism is we can get through it, but not you're going to be for a while. I don't know. I think 3.5, 4 months is really before anything starts to resemble normal.
Yeah, and I honestly think that normal that you're talking about is a new normal. It's not anywhere close to, I'm just going to go get that burrito. It's going to be like, let me mask up and go get that burrito, because
something like that.
And also maybe that burrito changed in price, or that burrito shop isn't even open because the economy took a hit, such a serious hit. So whatever you all can do to support your local economy, support Fab Labs, donate to them, go to the website, which is, what was that again? www.ppe4cc.org. Is that right?
Yep. ppe4cc.org. And that's our system for taking in requests and managing them. And then also, if people want to contribute, there's different ways they can. We're doing pretty good as far as contributions go when it comes to actual assistance. We have a lot of people sewing. We have a good chunk of people driving. There is a bunch of people who, it's been hard for us to get to the list of fabrication people who are trying to fabricate. what we're trying to do is put together resources for people who want to 3D print. If you have laser cutters or if you have those kinds of tools, those are definitely not the bottleneck. It's mostly been materials and sewing that have been the most needed thing.
So where would we go if we wanted to be one of the seamstresses or tailors to help sew the masks, or to get you, like if we had extra materials, where would we go to donate those or to talk to you about it?
That website.
Okay, so
Yep.
www.ppe4cc.org.
Yep.
Awesome.
And I'm pretty sure the correct word is sewist.
Sewist, sorry.
Yeah, don't be sorry. I've been saying seam. I came up with seam workers,
that's
but
good.
I believe sewists is the correct term. When you type sewer, it's sewer. So people are weirded out by that, which makes sense.
Yeah. Sewist.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off for the day?
Yeah, totally. So there's also the city of Santa Cruz has a whole initiative. I have a feeling that they saw what we were doing and are trying to do the same thing for their people. So Hearts Fabric has a thing on their website that says volunteer to sew for the city of Santa Cruz. We are paying our sewists per mask. There's 2 models of masks. So the simpler one is $3 per mask and the more complex one is $5. But if you just want to sew for the sake of sewing for a cause, you can either hit us up or you can go to Hearts Fabric's website and you can volunteer to sew to complete masks for the city.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time and taking this time away from your very, very worthy project. And until next time, we'll be able to get you at Fab Labs or at www.ppe4cc.org. Thanks so much, Jordan. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Jaimi.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.